Have you ever wondered what life is like behind the bars of a prison? There's something about the unseen, the unknown, that sparks an irresistible curiosity in us all. One such unseen reality is life behind bars. It's a world many of us have never experienced, yet it's one that's often depicted in movies, books, and television shows. But how much of what we see and hear actually aligns with the truth? When we think of prisons, images of gray walls, barred windows, and uniformed inmates often come to mind. We imagine a world of strict rules, harsh discipline, and endless monotony. While these elements certainly exist, the reality of prison life is far more complex and nuanced than what's often portrayed in our media. The common misconceptions about life in prison can be misleading. It's not just about serving time or paying for one's crimes, it's about survival, adaptation, and transformation. It's about navigating a system that's designed to control and confine, all while trying to maintain one's humanity and hope. Societal perceptions of prison life are often skewed, leaning more towards punishment than rehabilitation. Yet, the truth is prisons are filled with people, not just criminals. People who have made mistakes, people who are paying their debts to society, people who are trying to change their lives for the better. Understanding the reality of prison life is crucial. It's not about sympathizing with criminals or condoning illegal activities. Rather, it's about recognizing the humanity that exists even behind bars. It's about acknowledging the complex challenges faced by those incarcerated and understanding the systemic issues that often lead to their imprisonment. Prison life is a world unto itself, with its own rules, culture, and social structure. It's a world that's often misunderstood, and yet, it's a world that impacts us all, directly or indirectly. So let's challenge the stereotypes, let's question the narratives, and let's try to see beyond the bars. Let's dive into the unseen reality of life behind bars. To understand the true nature of prison life, we need to hear from those who have lived it. Let's delve into the experiences of those who have navigated the labyrinth of incarceration, those who have walked the tightrope of prison life. These are the voices that have echoed within the concrete walls and steel bars, the voices that have lived the unseen realities of prison life. First, we hear from John. He recalls the jarring transition from freedom to confinement, the sudden shift from the world he knew to a world defined by rules and regulations, a world where personal space is non-existent. He talks about the daily routines that start before dawn and end after dusk, a life that is regimented, structured, and monotonous. Next, we listen to Maria, who shares her experiences about the environment. She paints a picture of a world devoid of color, of natural light, of fresh air. A world that is cold and harsh, where the walls have eyes and ears, where the air is heavy with tension, suspicion, and fear. Then there is Robert, who delves into the psychological impact of being in prison. He talks about the mental strain, the constant stress of living in a state of heightened alertness. He speaks of the loneliness, the isolation, the torment of being cut off from the world outside, of being locked in with your thoughts, your regrets, your fears. These stories, these voices, they give us a glimpse into a world that is often misunderstood and misrepresented. They help us understand the complexities, the challenges, the struggles of prison life. They remind us that behind the statistics, behind the headlines, behind the bars, there are human beings. These voices represent a fraction of the millions who have lived and are living this challenging reality. Each voice is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, to the indomitable will to survive, to hope, to change, to be better. These are the voices that paint a true picture of life behind bars. Survival in prison is not just physical, but also mental. The moment one steps into the prison, the world as they know it changes. It's not just about the high walls and barbed wires, it's about the unique social ecosystem that exists within these walls. Every day, inmates face a myriad of challenges, each one a test of their resolve and resilience. One of the most prominent challenges is violence. The sad reality is that prisons often become breeding grounds for aggression and hostility. This violence isn't confined to physical altercations, it also manifests as intimidation and bullying, creating an atmosphere of constant fear and tension. Then there's the struggle for basic resources. The need for essentials like food, clothing, and medical care can lead to desperate measures. Survival often comes down to bartering, negotiating, and sometimes even fighting for these necessities. But perhaps the most insidious challenge is the one that isn't as visible: the mental toll. Imagine the crushing loneliness, the constant fear, the loss of hope. Depression, anxiety, and other mental health issues are often magnified behind bars, exacerbated by the lack of adequate support and resources. Consider John's story, a former inmate who spoke about his struggles with depression. He described days when he would wake up to a world devoid of color, where every moment felt like a lifetime. He spoke about the lack of mental health resources and the dismissive attitudes of many prison officials. Or take Maria's account, another ex-prisoner who shared her experiences with violence. She talked about the fear that consumed her every waking moment, the constant need to watch her back. She highlighted the prison's failure to provide a safe environment, a basic human right. These stories are not isolated incidents. They are a glimpse into the grim reality of life behind bars. They underscore the urgent need for systemic changes, for better support and resources for inmates. Survival in prison is a daily battle, one that leaves scars both visible and invisible. Prison doesn't end at the gate. The aftermath follows inmates long after their release. Imagine being held in a place that demands you to adapt to its harsh and unyielding conditions, where the survival instinct becomes your only ally. Now imagine emerging from that place and being thrust back into a world that has moved on without you. This is the reality for many former inmates, a reality that doesn't fade with the closing of the prison gate. The term aftermath typically refers to the consequences or results of a significant disastrous event. It's a fitting term when we talk about life after prison. The transition from confinement to freedom is far from seamless. It's a journey marred with difficulties. The challenge of reintegrating into society is a daunting one, let alone the struggle to find employment. For those who've walked this path, the journey is all too real. Take John, for instance, a former inmate who was released after serving 10 years. The world he returned to was vastly different from the one he left. Technology had advanced, social norms had shifted, and he was left grappling to catch up. Then there's Lisa, who served a 5-year sentence. Despite her qualifications, she found it nearly impossible to secure employment. The stigma attached to her prison record followed her like a shadow, casting doubts in the minds of potential employers. These stories are not anomalies. They reflect a broader issue that extends beyond the individual. Society as a whole plays a role in this aftermath. Our perceptions, our biases, they all contribute to the struggles faced by former inmates. The aftermath of prison is more than just the personal struggles of those released. It's a societal challenge that calls for empathy, understanding, and change. It's about acknowledging that the prison's shadow can loom large, even when the bars are no longer in sight. The prison's shadow looms large, even when the bars are no longer in sight. Understanding the reality of prison life is the first step towards change. This is not just a statement, but a call to action. A call to reform a system that has been functioning under the shackles of outdated rules and inhumane conditions. The need for prison reform is as real as the bars that surround the inmates. It's about more than just improving conditions inside prisons, it's about re-evaluating the entire system. It's about asking, why do we punish? Is it for retribution or is it for rehabilitation? If it's the latter, then our prisons are failing us. They are not producing better citizens, but rather, they are churning out individuals who are often more broken than when they entered. Advocacy groups such as the Prison Policy Initiative and the Sentencing Project have long been pushing for change. They've gathered data that tells a tale of a system in desperate need of a makeover. For instance, the United States has the highest incarceration rate in the world, with over 2 million people behind bars. Many of these individuals are nonviolent offenders who would be better served by alternatives to incarceration. Moreover, once released, these individuals often find themselves in a world that is not prepared to support them. Without proper support systems, recidivism rates remain high, with nearly 2/3 of released prisoners being rearrested within 3 years. This is a clear indication of a system that is not only failing its inmates but society as well. But data and statistics are just the tip of the iceberg. They don't tell the story of the human beings who are living this reality every day. They don't tell the story of the mothers and fathers, the sons and daughters who are caught in this cycle of punishment and neglect. And so, the call to action is not just about reforming prisons, it's about transforming society's understanding of what it means to punish, of what it means to rehabilitate. It's about recognizing that every individual, no matter their past, deserves a chance at redemption. It's time to transform our understanding into action. It's time for prison reform.